Welcome to the Checkered Shorts Podcast, a podcast of three fraternity brothers reconnected by their love of IndyCar. Join us for grid-rival IndyCar fantasy talk, predictions for upcoming races, and reactions to race day results and all things IndyCar. Let's go racing! Hey, good evening and welcome back to another episode of Checkered Shorts. Sorry, can't, it's May. I like that. Episode 21. And you can tell by the energy, number one, we got some Pacers action in the background, opening game of the Eastern Conference Finals. But also, I mean, we're right here. We're right here at the pointy bit where we're getting close to game day, race day, biggest event of the year, biggest racing event in the world. And so we're getting pretty excited.
Is it Sunday yet?
Yeah. Episode 21, though, we're going a little bit of a different direction. So Professor Dinwiddie's pulled up some history for us based off of the number 21.
Yeah, so the number 21 is another one of those tricky ones. We've had no 500 victories, actually, and no pole winners either. So obviously, in recent years, we've had Renus VK in the 21. I thought that was a pretty solid number. But then it went back, like Cale Yarborough, who we NASCAR acclaim, also ran IndyCar and ran in the 500 back in the 60s and maybe even into the early 70s. He drove the 21. But outside of car number, kind of thought, let's go back and look at the 1921 Indianapolis 500. And doing a little research, found out that was a really interesting one. Guy by the name of Tommy Milton won that race. He actually won the 500 two times, and was, I believe, the first two-time winner of the race. In that 1921 race, that was coming out of World War I, there were only 23 cars in the race, and Tommy started 20th out of 23 cars and won the race. So with Newgarden and Will Power, you do have a shot. A couple other things about him. I said, 23 cars started that race, but only 8 finished. And that was commonplace in that time period, really. It was a testing ground for automobiles. If they could make it 500 miles, that was pretty awesome. So 8 out of the 23 finished the race. Tommy Milton himself is an interesting fellow because he only had one functioning eye. So think about that. Like in today's world, like would they allow somebody with, physical limitation like that to jump in a race car at 230 miles an hour? Right? I don't know. I mean, they would have to really prove it. But to have one eye and win the Indianapolis 500. Another interesting fact in that time period, I didn't know this, so I did this research, is that they ran all the cars until they actually finished all 200 laps. So Milton finished the race, comes in, goes probably to victory lane, but then there were cars running for another 45 minutes. Like it took him 5.5 hours to win the race. And then the last car that finished, the 8th car, right? The car that finished 8th in the race didn't finish until about 6 hours and 15 minutes. So the 1921 Indianapolis 500, like how times changed, right? Like now we figure about a 3-hour race, 2.5 to 3 hours. They were running for 6 hours straight back in 19.
I mean, you got to bring a lot of beer for 6 hours. I mean, like, honey, can you bring my backup cooler, please? You're in for the long haul. Good job. That's cool. Good job, Professor Dinwiddie.
It sounds like it went from a race of endurance to today's race of speed.
Yeah.
And which one brings in 400,000 people?
Sure. But that was what it was originally built for, was a testing ground to bring the car manufacturers and the automobile manufacturers and see who had the best, most durable vehicle. So, that was a little history lesson for you.
Yeah.
Fun fact: 1995, I believe that was my first Indy 500. This is the year Scott Goodyear jumped the gun.
Mm-hmm.
I think this first year Honda was in there, so I was a big Honda. My dad was a big Honda guy, so I was rooting for him, and I was like, "Holy crap, he's going to win!" He was number 21.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he passed the pace car.
The short shoot almost, and he passed the pace car.
But the pace car, if you go back and I watched that video earlier today, and actually that pace car was going about 30 miles an hour slower than it should have been. So I know Scott to this day is still upset about how he lost that race.
Jacques Villeneuve ended up pulling that one out. So cool, good history.
Yeah.
All right.
I forgot about that. He was 21. That's good.
So this is going to be released on Thursday, just 3 short days before the race. And so, the excitement's getting high. For me, I can tell my excitement level's getting high because I must be chatting about it, being chatty Cathy at work about the Indianapolis 500 and some our podcast and just some of the fun stuff that we're doing. But this week, my bus mechanic, he has been racing cars on dirt tracks for decades, 30 plus years. And now he's run pit crews. He runs the pit crew for his son now who runs. And talk about some dirt track racing occasionally, his experience on the weekend, how things went, just casual conversation. He spoke to me for more than 30 minutes specifically about Sunday's race. And I could tell that I must be spreading the word that the Indianapolis 500 we're on the doorstep, and I'm really excited. And then my school resource officer came today with this gift. It's a nice racing beer sign.
Sweet.
It's kind of like a history of all racing. It's not just IndyCar, but it's kind of a neat little gift. But again, I must be talking a lot about the race because 2 people that I do see quite often, but generally don't talk racing, and they both made a point to help celebrate the week with me.
It's awesome.
That's cool.
Very awesome.
You're one of us now, Keith.
You're right. As I was getting ready to say, my cousin asked me for some help for a friend. He's in a pool. My other buddy asked me to help to start a pool, like where tier drivers should be and all this other stuff. So people always ask me, and I've said it before, like, who do you think's going to win? And it is the hardest race to predict. It is. I mean, honestly, over half the field probably has a pretty good shot.
I would agree with that this year. You would think a race that's been won the last 2 years by one guy, when one guy's won 4 out of the 5 races this year, like that'd make them the 2 favorites. But there never is a favorite in this race.
I don't. It's really hard.
And one of those 2-time champions, the most recent, obviously it's the topic of everyone. We're not breaking any news here. It's been discussed over and over and over. But Penske, man, they have found a problem. Not perfect Penske. It's problematic Penske now. And it's splattered everywhere. So what are your all's takes on that? And any information you have, it would be welcome.
Yeah,
I'm shocked. Go ahead. You can
exactly. We had the situation at St. Pete last year with using push to pass on restarts and pieces and things like that, and they kind of brushed that off. And even this week, with the attenuator issue, it was kind of it was an oversight, things like that. I've never been a huge Roger Penske fan. As a matter of fact, I really had some dislike for him for many years there. But today he really impressed me. It seems like he's a man of integrity, and I think he showed it today. Because the news came out this morning that Tim Cindric and Ron Rzuski and Kyle Moyer have been released. And those are guys that have been Tim's been with Roger since 1999. Over 25 years in the organization. He's the president. At one point, he was the president of all Penske racing. So IMSA to NASCAR to IndyCar and anything else that Roger does. Been his go-to right-hand man, and to let him go. So that told me, Roger does honor and value the idea of being perfect and integrity and those kinds of pieces. And so, if he had to make that choice today, he stood up and was a man about it. And I appreciate him for doing that. But that tells you there's something wrong. Like Roger really felt that those guys went, it wasn't an oversight, that this was intentional in my book. That means a lot. And it's sad to see that, because of an organization that's done so much for IndyCar in the last, 50 years.
It makes you question a lot. And I mean, as a driver, I'd be super frustrated, beyond frustrated. I just, like 10 minutes ago, was watching Marshall Pruitt video, and sounds like this came out at Barber to the race officials. And then there was testing and all that other stuff afterwards at IMS. And then it came to a head there on pit road during before the Fast 12, it sounds like. So this isn't, I mean, it's pretty blatant. It sounds like, and it was happening. And somebody finally said something that sounds like it might've been Chip. So
the right time to say it too, right? Like,
yeah, right.
You hit somebody, hit them right before the 500.
Yep. So it's really strange, man. Like, you don't think of cheating like that. It's really hard.
Well, and then I'm sorry, what's the guy? Tim, what's his
Cindric.
I read a quote from him just in the last couple of hours that he said it was for cosmetic reasons.
Well, that's what Kevin Lee tried to say. They said last night on his podcast or his radio show too, because Roger does focus a lot on that. If you've been to IMS in the last 5 years, you've seen the upgrades from a cosmetic standpoint.
Yep.
He does, that is a part of what they do. They want things to look perfect. But you can't mess with the physical structure of.
But the rule is very clear that you can't adapt it. You can't modify it in any way. And so for cosmetic reasons, why would you take the chance? If you weren't taking the chance for some sort of competitive advantage, even if it's minute,
it's not. Yeah, it's not the NASCARs like it was in the 70s. Mm-hmm. Bring what you brought and just kind of race it and modify it as you go. And it's very few things you could touch on that car after it for tech.
And I think you can look at that. You can look at that two ways. Kind of like Formula One is a little more of a free for all with how you can build your car, but then you also see the discrepancy between the haves and the have-nots. Right now we talk about the uphill climb that some of the teams have that have lesser resources. That would be appallingly separated if they didn't have to have these stock items, if they weren't all racing the same specs.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy. I think they handled it pretty well, IndyCar, by moving them to the back. There's could be arguments made. Well, Connor Daly lost out on a pole potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever else was behind him lost out on a pole potentially. Jacob Abel lost out on being in the race potentially. So I'm not saying I agree with any of those calls if they would have made those, but I wouldn't have disagreed, I don't think. Does Will and Joseph know about these?
Right.
Because we have not heard. We knew that they had to press the button at St. Pete. We do not know if any of that, if they know any of that, which they could not. I mean, we haven't heard from them. So, I mean, it's pretty big controversy, man.
It is. And, I'm curious too, because Tim Cindric's son, Austin, races for Roger in NASCAR. What's the status of that? Like, where, did Roger just relieve Tim and they're still friends and he's, basically taking one for the team here and Austin stays, or does Austin start looking and like, is he really set in NASCAR? And like, is that a future IndyCar driver? I don't know.
I do appreciate some of the other drivers speaking up though, because I do think that sometimes it's like fall in line, everyone, speak the company speak. And,
awesome.
Graham Rahal for me has been like a punchline since I started becoming a fan. I don't know Graham Rahal before when he maybe was at the top of his game or if he ever had a top of the game. But his interview I thought was really impressive because, he just went right in. There was no pulling punches. It wasn't overly aggressive, but it was to the point. Why does Penske need another advantage?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you have to cut a corner? Why do you have to, presumably try to get some type of edge over everyone else when you already have the edge?
Right. It's true. But I'll tell you, that's Graham. Graham's been that way. Graham will speak his mind. He'll say he's a great follow on the scanner if during races. Graham doesn't hold anything back, never has. And I think part of that is because he's the son of a team owner and a former Indy 500 legend. So like he doesn't have to try to play the game, right? But it is interesting with it being Roger's team and with him owning IndyCar and IMS, like that does kind of put those drivers in a weird situation. But it is nice to see that they're willing to step out there and say what they need to say.
Jamie Little had an interview with Roger. It must have been like today about everything. So I think it was after the firings of those three guys. So I didn't watch it all. It was probably 10, 15 minutes. I watched the first few just to, he took it like a champ and he was like, I want this to be perfect. And my team is not right now. So I've never been a Penske fan either, but I think I do trust what he's trying to do. I don't think it's Roger at all.
I think it would be more easily explained away as like an accident or like, oh, it's not a rule that matters if there was more than one team doing it.
Yeah, right.
They're not the only ones that want their cars to look perfect.
Right. They used to read between the lines in a lot of race sports, read between the lines. It says you can't do this, but it doesn't say you can't do this. And you know what I mean? There's people that read these rule books that teams hire to find
a loophole.
Yes, 100%.
If you're not cheating, you're not trying, right? That's kind of been the motto of racing for as long as I can remember.
I have two things. VK said, if you told me that I was starting in the same row as Newgarden and Power, I'd be really happy. So that was pretty funny. And I think Pato, the face of the sport, was the first guy to speak about it. At least that's what I saw.
He spoke about it the day before they made the final decision because he said they should go. He said they should go to the back.
Yeah. I thought that was he was poetic about it. He was professional about it. He wasn't bashing anybody. But I thought that was,
and he could have been sour grapes and said, "What about last year's 500?"
Yes,
and we haven't been into that. I think if he wants to, he wins. He wants to win it. Even that St. Pete win.
I thought it was good for him, the face of our sport, to say something, but still be professional and say it in the right ways, but speak his mind about it. I thought that was really, really good for him, the sport, and just in general as a human being. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
All right. So I think the next thing we have on our list to discuss is what's the weather going to be like Sunday and what impact does it have? I say, a landscape guy, you got to keep a close eye on the weather, right, Pat? So what's the forecast for Sunday? We got a historian and Brian. We'll have Pat the weatherman.
Come on, Bob Gregory, give us the forecast.
Swoop McLean here. I heard it first from Angela Buckman today because people are asking me, like, is it going to rain today? I was at the car dealership picking up a part for one of the trucks, and she's like, oh, it's supposed to rain on the race day. I'm like, I think it might, but I don't. Angela Buckman said rain in the morning, but will not affect the race.
Okay.
So
I don't know.
IndyCar
weatherman is still holding out. He said,
he's saying
he'd let us know tomorrow morning.
He was saying southern. He was more concerned about the southern area, so down in Keyside land. So it sounds like we should be okay. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But I don't know the last time it's been 67 on race day. It's going to be, chilly probably, especially in the morning. You're going to have to take layers, I would presume. and then shut them off. It's not supposed to be, I don't think, a terrible day. It's just supposed to be overcast and all that other good stuff.
Yeah.
So,
which
Which
if
is
we
good
think
for
about that,
racing.
the effects of that means
eh,
really good racing, because that
Yes.
means everybody's going to have grip. That means that engines aren't going to,
yep.
overheat. I expect it to be really, really good, really racy, really just fun to watch.
I agree.
As long as like you said, as long as the weather stays away. My concern, I think, goes back to Kyle Larson. Because if there's any type of delay at all, like Kyle can't run, and so then Kanan's got to be in the way, or if they're questioning whether they're going to get started and then a little shower is going to pop in, like, do they start Larson or do they go ahead and just say nope, we're going to put Kanan in it? Because if Larson has to come out of the car, Kanan can't go in.
Right.
The only way Kanan can go in is at the beginning of the race. So that's something to keep an eye on from the McLaren standpoint.
Bam Chase, who I use for work, says likely 1.15 inches. So I don't see the timing on that yet.
It only takes about 0.02 inches to
Okay, you know what,
keep
Dinwiddie?
them from running out there.
Yeah, this is my segment, okay? Historian.
All right, Pat, Weatherman, go.
So
give me the sunny version.
Right. So we'll see. It sounds like it doesn't sound like a lot of rain, if anything else.
I mean, 1/10 of an inch of rain is not much for a person to be out in the rain. I don't think it's going to affect. It's not going to affect people showing up to the race, but the timing is going to be important, and the track has to be dry.
Yeah, AccuWeather. You look at this just as a backup. It says partly sunny, 25% chance of precipitation. So it sounds like it potentially is better than last year's. What time's the green flag? So it's like 11 a.m. start technically, but what time is actual green flag?
Well, I think it's 12, isn't it?
Is it? Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry, 12. So, what time is the green flag? Like 12:27 or 12:17? I don't know that off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't either.
So it's still. I mean, yeah, who knows? I don't know.
12:30 is when it comes on Fox. So,
wow.
So we may be.
I thought I heard they dropped the green flag at 12:45. I thought I read that somewhere.
That sounds about right. So,
okay. Well, hopefully, let it rain at 7 or 8 a.m. and we'll be fine.
There we go.
Still drive the track.
I don't know. Those guys in the tent in the backyard might say something different. Right, Brian?
Yeah.
I'm cleaning out some floor space for you, Keith.
Bring the camper. Put it in there.
There's a camper for sale down the road. Maybe we can go snag it rent it for the night or something.
I'm telling you, I look on. This is totally. You could pause it if you wanted to. I look on Facebook Marketplace all the time for like $6,000 campers that the three of us should split. We'll start sending them to you. So, all right, that's sidetrack. Sorry, fans.
Yeah, right now we got a free one thanks to Mom and Nance.
Yeah. Well, who you guys? I mean, again, we just talked about it a few minutes ago. Who are we picking?
Yeah, I think each of us need to make one final prediction, right? Like who's winning it? I'll let you guys go first.
I'm going to cheer for one guy. So I should be saying that's the guy who's going to win it. And I think he's got a shot. I mean, he's been super consistent all week long. I know the other day when they ran practice, they ran in traffic and he was more like in 6 to 9 range. But I also wonder how much they protect their vehicles, how much are they protecting their cars? There's certainly, if you're happy about your car setup and it got you on the front row, what do you really need to know from that practice in traffic? You don't need to know if you can outpace everyone from that practice. You need to know if the engineering is correct and the setup's right and they're good to go. And if you're good to go, you're satisfied and get the car back in the shop and don't touch it till it's race time.
Yep.
You're right.
I'm going Dixon. It just seems to fit this year. He's always runs really well here. It's just, I think this is going to be a harder race for a lot of these guys because of the hybrid issues. It's a little bit more of a not a finesse, I don't want to say, but you got to know how to drive this car at all times, and you can't mess up. I mean, I think it's like that for any 500, but I don't know. I just think it's a little bit harder from what everybody's seen in the practices, qualifications, stuff like that. This car's a lot more to handle, and I think somebody like a Dixon who can run this thing has been around a long time. It advantage to him type of thing. So
so you think it might be more about the skill of the driver than the performance of the car, or at least as much.
I think so. I mean, and he's got it. He always has a good car.
But I think the car is good too.
Yeah. He just has those little nuances of, like a Schwartzman. Schwartzman, yeah, he's the fastest guy, but he doesn't know how to run this track. He doesn't know. I mean, a half-second decision that he's like, no, I got it, and then you're gone. See you, bye. It's just the experience, and that's why I am going with somebody like that.
Okay. All right, you got those are two really solid picks there, and I don't know. I'm still battling in my mind. My heart. I know, Pat, you're not going to like this one, but my heart says Connor Daly. He's been really good. He looked good on Monday in practice. He's starting in a place that they can get there.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
but I think Roger has something to prove. I think he is really fired up. And I don't think 32 and 33 can get there, but I do think McLaughlin can get there. And I just think all the energy has been put into Scotty Mack right now. And I know another one, none of us picked Pillow. I don't think he's ready. I just don't think this is the year again. I think too much expectation. But I think Scotty Mack is kind of unbelievably under the radar this week because of what his two teammates have done. And
sure, no, that's a really good point. Really good point.
I'm gonna go Scotty Mack.
I would be really excited if either of those two drivers won it. Pato, I mean, I still remember Pato like head on the windshield thing after the race yesterday or last year. Like seeing how heartbroken he was. I mean, incredible. That makes you want to pull for a guy. There's a lot of guys that probably do that, but being the face of the sport, they
have it replayed over and over and over again for a year.
Oh man, that makes you hurt. And he even spoke about it on one of the Fox promo documentaries the other night. He's like, that was the first time I've ever felt heartbroken after a race. So, which is really cool to hear. It's you could feel for the guy, which I think is cool.
Which also shows some maturity from what happened recently, that he did it just dogpile on top of him because there's got to be the human nature part of it. He's got to say, "What the hell?" It's sitting in the museum with the same modification.
I think Scotty Mack is the next. Probably should have replaced Newgarden in all these promos. I think he's just more likable, more promotable. But yeah, and I think we've talked about it too. Scotty Mack might be getting the better parts type of thing.
Yeah.
Off the team here in the last, at least this year it seems. So it's cool. Connor Daly, you're right though, has a good. He's in a good spot if he can stay on sequence and stay up there with the top 8-ish throughout the day. Not get caught up, not get, don't want to be first because you're, off sequence and you're leading because of that stuff. I think he knows how to drive around here. That's for sure.
Yeah. They got to get the strategy right.
Yep.
I mean, I know it's been said on some other podcasts and other places, but he's led as many laps at the Indianapolis 500 as Joseph Newgarden. So he knows how to get out front. He knows how to get around this place. And so, an Indiana driver hasn't won it in 80 years, I think is what I think.
Yeah.
40 something was the last time
And to your point, I think a lot of those laps is because he wants to lead.
Yeah.
You got to let it come to you. Don't go out there just to want to lead.
Yeah.
So it's all about strategy. Let the race come to you. If you lead, yes, okay, let's go. But don't just no, we're not going to pit, or we're going to go off strategy because we want to lead. I think that's probably happened a couple times.
Yeah, that's true.
So quickly, what are we to look for on Sunday? What things should we be noticing early on? I assume the start when they come down 3 wide has got to be pretty interesting, and I wonder how, how Schwartzman will handle that. He's got the pole, but those two guys that are next to him on the front row, and not to mention the people directly behind him that have got just as much opportunity to get the lead out of the front stretch. Who's leading in turn number 1?
Pato's coming from the outside, I think. I don't. Well, I think Schwartzman takes off in turn 3 or coming out of 3 as soon as he gets the opportunity to go. But I think Pato drafts behind him and gets around him on the front stretch. But I think there's a yellow coming in lap 1. And I think our boy Santino is going to cause it because he's sitting on the outside, and we know he loves to pass on the outside, and he's got Alex Rossi right in front of him, and I have a feeling he's going to run Rossi over. That's my prediction.
Yeah, it's tricky.
That's a pretty long shot parlay you just put together there.
Is it really that Ferrucci's going to take a shot? I don't think it is.
I mean, 3 wide doesn't happen all that often, but you got to remember, especially those guys. I mean, there's people behind you too, especially in the front row. So that you have to be mindful for that. There's 2 guys that are, well, I guess 2 of the guys, but one guy, like I think I talked about, Taku to wild card. Pato wants to win, and Schwartzman probably doesn't know what the hell he's doing yet. This is his first oval race, so could be interesting. But
he's got Briscoe coaching him though, and Ryan was on the front row at least once, if not a couple times.
On the pole for Penske,
Good. So Ryan will be a good support for him to walk him through that preparation. But
I think Pato at least leads the first lap.
That's a good point. If he doesn't get him down the front stretch, he might get him on the backside. That's a good point. I'm just looking forward to, as a spectator being in person. Again, we talked about this earlier, is all the pre-race festivities. I mean, that's just, that's amazing. I love the racing, but that hour and a half, 2 hours before the race is just something that you just don't miss.
No, I totally agree.
And just ready to listen to the radio broadcast, watch the cars go, watch them into the turns, and kind of watch see how well they're able to stick it where they want to go. I'm questioning, with the way the car has been this month, like, are we going to see more yellows than we've seen all season? I hope it's not a crash fest, because those aren't fun. But I do want to see 4, 5, 6 cautions, would be nice.
I think it might have been Kevin Lee. He's like, I have a feeling this is going to be a lot more racy than what we have seen in the past years, with the weather, with the hybrid, stuff like that. And it was a good point. I mean, this is a different car, and we haven't seen it in this atmosphere yet.
Yeah. Well, Monday's practice, it
was pretty
last
cool.
Several years we've seen a lot of passing among the front 2, but I saw a lot of mid-pack exchanges on Monday when I was out there. Now, you never know, are guys working on fuel mileage, or they running different, tire wear, things like that. But it just seemed a little more racy on Monday than what it has been. So the hybrid is going to play a role. I mean, Newgarden said it, a month ago, that the hybrid is going to determine who wins this race and who's able to use it the best. So keep an eye, if you're either watching at home or in person, keep an eye on that hybrid. How is it affecting this race? None of them have ever done this before for 500 miles.
The hybrid's never done it for 500 miles. It's been volatile. So it's man, we're having our race party, and there's going to be like maybe 150 people here.
Keith, ours is going to be a little smaller. I'll just tell you, the Dinwiddie household, we're good with a small knit group of people.
No,
it's graduation combo, right, Pat? That's why you got the
So Brady's excited. We're excited. I don't know. I asked Jennifer if I could wear my MGD racing shirt. She's like, you might have to wear something more appropriate for your aunts and cousins and everybody that are coming. I was like, they'll be fine. So,
they don't know you?
They know me. Yes. It's that's a good point. That's my rebuttal. Honey, if you're listening, more in the MGD. So, yeah. Well, that's a good episode, boys.
Yeah, no, it's one of those situations where you almost don't want to end it because you want the race to be closer, and and it is right here, right in front of our noses. So it's a little bit like a kid at Christmas time, getting excited for the big day.
It's hard to believe it's this is Wednesday for us. Like you said, we're only a few short days away from getting it rolling, and
for some reason this feels like the start of the real season. It's kind of like watching preseason football. It's like, I haven't watched much football. I want to go watch these races. I want to watch them on TV. But now the Super Bowl happens today. It happens on Sunday. And then it's going to be race, little break, race, little break. And it's going to be stacked on top of each other. And it's going to be full-fledged pedal to the floor. All gas, no break.
We talk about it, a couple of buddies and I talk about the fact that we're all golfers, and we've it's played a lot of golf in our lives, but the Masters is kind of when we start thinking about playing golf each spring, you know, and Indy 500, we've been talking about how, Fox has really tried to promote and IndyCar's tried to promote this year, but like this could be a kickoff, and hopefully for fans, like this draws people in. I mean, they officially sold out the grandstands, 350,000. They got that 50,000 in the snake pit. And general admission is flying away. This is good momentum, and we need a good race to kick off.
One thing I was going to mention earlier about the Penske debacle is sometimes any news is good news when you need eyeballs.
Oh, for sure.
And, a little bit of drama before the biggest race of the season with the team where the ownership owns the racetrack and owns the league.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, I mean, you mentioned it before, but I thought IndyCar stepped up and did the right thing too. Who goes and says, hey, the CEO, by the way, we're going to punish you. You own this thing. But here's the rules, and we're going to hold you accountable. And they did the right thing. You could tell it was wearing on John Bowles, but that my president, this is my president shirt. He stood up and did the right thing.
Yeah. I agree. Even ESPN, I got the ding on the phone that it said it was grandstands are sold out first time since 2016. So, and that's an ABC company. So. It's good.
They're not covering IndyCar very well, but
no, God,
if it's coming across to them, there's something to it. So
I'm going to say, look out for Alex Rossi. He runs well here. He was third last year. He's sneaky. He's the 2016. You can't say he didn't deserve to win, but he won it on a very slow fuel mileage strategy, which whatever he earned it, but. I still think he can run well here. So that's
No, I think that's your sleeper. I think it's sitting back there. I think Ericsson had as bad a season as Ericsson's had. He's a former 500 champion. He's starting up front. Like that's another guy that just keep an eye on.
I'm excited, man. Should be cool.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on Checkered Shorts. Next time we will all be coming off a Indy 500 high, maybe a little bit of a race hangover, but we're going to be just as excited to share our response and our reaction. So catch you next time.
Episode coming up on Sunday. So.
Oh, there we go. Big 22.
I'm going to bring enough beer for 6-hour race, just in case.
Just in case we turn back the clock to 1921.
Yeah.
Tommy Hilton, 1921 winner.
It's 1921, honey. It's okay.
All right. Catch
see
you
y'all.
later.
All right.